My name's Daryl Bazin. I'm a retired officer in the Canadian Armed Forces. I served for 40 years, from just shy of 40 years. I served from 1977 until 2016. I work as a volunteer in military and government history.
I am Lieutenant Brenna Cook. I am the Troop Commander for Alpha Troop, 6-1 Battery, 20th Field Artillery Regiment here in Edmonton, Alberta. I'm a textile conservator at the Royal Alberta Museum, so I work here to prepare and preserve textiles for display in our galleries and to preserve their future in our collection.
My name is Nadeau, Museum Security Supervisor at the Royal Alberta Museum. Before I got into security, I was in the Canadian Army, did that for 7 years. I was with Lord Strathcona's Horse, Royal Canadians, as a Armoured Soldier. While I was with them, I did 2 tours to Afghanistan. I was also part of the Winter Olympic Security Force in Whistler. That was in 2010. And I trained all over North America, Europe, the Middle East. And in 2011, I retired as a Master Corporal. And yeah, that pretty much sums it up.
Jokingly, I used to always remind my young soldiers that Remembrance Day is the holiest day on the military calendar. But to me personally, it has great significance. As an amateur historian, and one who has traveled extensively through the battlefields on the Western Front and toured them, I certainly remember that generation of Canadians that went overseas, really getting into something that they did not fully comprehend at that time. And the great sacrifices that they made, not just those that fought and lost their lives, but in particular, those who came home injured and those who came home and had to then try to pick up their lives and move forward.
To me, Remembrance Day is about duty. It's about connecting the work that we do today to Canada's history, the traditions that we maintain as a ceremonial unit here in Edmonton, and our ceremonial duties on top of our other duties. So Remembrance Day is, for me, it's about making sure that I have equipped my troops to do a good job, to show the regiment to its in the best light, as well as the forces as a whole. And I think that it is about making that connection to the past and ensuring that these Canadian values that were fought so hard for in the past, that we're doing the work today to maintain those, and making sure that that we make that direct connection, not just on Remembrance Day, but throughout the year, throughout the training year, on those Wednesday nights or those weekends when we're out doing our stuff, that is something that we're living those values as well.
Well, Remembrance Day, first and foremost, an opportunity to remember those that fell in service of our country. And yeah, just on a personal level, while I was in Afghanistan, dozens of Canadians were killed fighting there. So I take time to remember that, remember what that was like to be there, and to sort of consider the fallout for their family members that have to deal with those challenges afterwards. Also, I had 2 great uncles that served in the Second World War. They flew fighters over Europe, and they were both killed in action over there. So take time to think of them. And beyond, I know that Remembrance Day is about remembering those that died, but I also like to take time to think of those that were injured physically or mentally, who came back and had a lot of challenges to face, and then that was difficult for their families, which would have implications for community, society. So it's the implications really transcend that individual service member. So I like to take time to consider that fact.
I grew up in a small prairie town, and when I was growing up in the 1960s and 70s, it was common to see a veteran. They were not, to me, the people that are probably associated today, where it's an elderly person in a wheelchair with a blanket wrapped around them, coming out to pay their respects on Remembrance Day. To me, they lived right next door to me. I mean, both to our neighbor to the left, our neighbor to the right, the neighbor directly across the street were Second World War veterans. They were the parents of almost all my friends, and they were the leaders of our community. They were the railroaders, the farmers, the pharmacists, the veterinarians, the small business owner, the plumber, the electrician. They were all veterans, and I knew them as men and women in their 40s, and probably at the time took for granted it, but I certainly reflect on that. So 3 individuals that stick out in my mind are Gordon Wilson, who had served with the Royal Regina Rifles. He was severely injured shortly after the D-Day landing. And when he came home, he spent several years overcoming his own demons. And then he spent the next 56 years of his life helping fellow veterans and railroaders conquer alcoholism. Gordon Keats, who lived directly across the street from us and was wounded in the Hockwald Gap, serving with the Lake Superior Regiment. He was the face of the local Legion. He was also the commanding officer of our local cadet corps, and he also was well known for his involvement as a school trustee on school boards and such. Danny Daniel is probably the most noteworthy as far as his service was. Danny Daniel was Wing Commander Tate's bomber and was the man credited with actually sinking the Tirpitz battleship. He flew 53 operational missions with 617 Squadron, which is the famed Dam Buster Squadron.
Each year I usually end up reflecting on, the history of the military, but also, my own role now as a female combat arms officer, and what that means, because that wasn't a role that was available to women for a really long time, and I think that it's important to see how far we've come, and these opportunities that I get to do this job it's pretty amazing, and something I value very deeply. And so reflecting on the progress and the history of women's roles in the forces is something that usually comes to mind every year for me.
I wear a poppy and go to ceremonies like most other Canadians do. And I suppose after the ceremony, I like to stop and, I've thought about those who fell. I like to think about what they fought for, Canadian values, the freedom, prosperity that we enjoy, that a lot of other people don't enjoy, a lot of other nations. So I like to think of what a privilege that is, and remember that those that fell for that reason, so that we could enjoy that. And yeah, just in addition to that, I think about Canadian society, the things that we strive for, equality, diversity, things that we fail to live up to, but we work towards. And I think the arc of history shows that we're improving in that regard. And so I think that that's something worth maintaining, if we have to fight for it. And there's also people around the world that would like to enjoy those, human rights that we enjoy. So I think that we should take the opportunity to help them achieve that when they can, if invited.
So Remembrance Day is a pretty busy day for me. As an artillery regiment, one of our tasks is to perform ceremonial duties. That includes a 21-gun salute on Remembrance Day. So it's a bit of an early morning coming together with the unit. And we move our C3 howitzers down to the legislature grounds, and there we observe the day with a ceremonial salute.
I always attend a ceremony. I prefer to attend smaller community ones. And unfortunately, with the pandemic right now, that's getting harder to do. So I actually attend the one at the Poplar Lake Cemetery, which is up on the base, Canadian Force Base Edmonton. And it's directly across the street from my old headquarters, where a very dear friend of mine is buried.